Want them? Okay. You're gonna bug me. They're yours now. It's my gift.
We are live, Mayor, and ready to go when you are.
Thank you very much. It's Tuesday, February 1st at 1 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. The town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous people, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. 3.1 to adopt the agenda meeting minutes for February 1st, regular council meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda as we see? So I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda minutes for Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 4.1, I'm very happy to welcome Ms. Jana Thompson from the Rocky Community Learning Council via Zoom today. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for having me. Is my sound okay?
Yeah, Laura, we have a funny, oh wait, I think Tracy's getting it. We can't see you just quite yet. Your sound is great. Now
Okay.
we can see you. Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try not to take up too much of your time. I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So I'm not really here today to ask for anything big. We just want to introduce ourselves to the new town council. Congratulations to everyone. I have worked with or met many of you in different capacities over the years. And so I'm just going to get started and you can ask questions at the end if that works for you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So at the Rocky Learning Center, our mission is to provide accessible and affordable learning opportunities to the adults in our community. Our legal name is Rocky Community Learning Council, but we felt due to our relationship and partnership with Campus Alberta, being a learning center, a hub in our community, that was more important. And we're kind of known in the community as the Rocky Learning Center. So that's where that is. We're funded by Advanced Education in the Foundational Learning Portfolio. And we have been in Rocky Mountain House in Clearwater County for 44 years. So that's a long time. I refer to our memorandum of understanding with Campus Alberta Central, and it's to provide local online post-secondary opportunities. So I have some examples of that later, but we have the healthcare aid, the PN program, the practical nursing program, which are both very important right now. And we're both recruiting for both programs in the community, starting in the healthcare aid starting in May, and the LPN will be starting in September. And so we have a wide variety of local learning opportunities. So our primary focus is the literacy and foundational learning. One statistic that people are always shocked to hear, and it comes directly from Stats Canada, is that 42% of Canadians read below a grade 5 level. And so this is part of the reason why our provincial governments fund organizations like us, so that our adults are more willing and able and have the opportunities to participate in our economies and drive forward. So our programming consists of adult literacy, numeracy, skills for learning, basic digital skills, which has skyrocketed in the last 2 years because so many things have moved online, and English language learning for newcomers to Canada. Our community capacity building is the GED, which is a very busy program. We have students in there coming and going all the time. We run it 3 semesters, so 3 times a year. Mental health awareness has also been a very important program in the last few years, and workplace readiness and cultural awareness. So with our Campus Alberta Central partnership, we're also able to offer access to the post-secondary information, but Campus Alberta Central is a partnership between Olds College and Red Deer Polytechnic, but we also do work with institutions such as SAIT, Mount Royal, MacEwan. We invigilate exams for post-secondary institutions all across Canada. And so our learning spaces also, we have the tools for learners who do not have access to the internet, which is actually a large population in rural Alberta. So we have laptops, the internet access, cameras, and microphones for students to use in our facility. So our current programming and upcoming program with Campus Alberta is the healthcare aid, the practical nursing. We have early learning in childcare, as well as administrative professional certificates. And in the past, we've done heavy equipment operators. Part of the funding back in the day for the welding department up at the high school was also through Red Deer College and the prior version of Campus Alberta Central. So just some statistics, and I'm gonna go quick because I know you're busy, and our adult tutoring program is a volunteer run program. And so for a lot of the basic literacy programs, we rely on volunteers in our community. I know Mayor Bache's campaign was strong on volunteer support, and I really appreciate that because we do rely on volunteers in our community. We had 1,055 tutor hours recorded for last year. And a lot of that was English language learners. And we actually had a refugee language and support program, that was 613 hours there. So our basic literacy programs, we had 150 learners in years pre-COVID. Since COVID, that has gone up a huge amount because people are out of work, and so they're wanting to upgrade their learning and their skills. We had 237 community capacity learners. We invigilated 118 exams. So that means those are students that are taking post-secondary opportunities at home in our community. So I think that's very valuable information for everybody to know. And yeah, we do food safety workshops, we do plain language workshops, and lots. I gave you a brochure. I think everyone might have it in front of you, or you have it in your package too. So the town of Rocky Mountain House and Rocky Community Learning Council have worked together in the past in many different capacities. We are currently moving, so these next 2 bullets tie in together. The previous mayor and council wrote a very nice letter of support for Rocky Community Learning Council because the provincial government wanted us out of the provincial buildings. There are 18 community adult learning councils throughout the province that have all been pushed out or been made to pay a high amount of rent. So the amount of rent that they were asking us for was more than half of our government grant. So in order to pay that, we would either have no programming because we couldn't afford to run programming, or we'd have no staff because we couldn't afford to pay staff. So we are moving. We're very much looking forward to the move now that we're on the other end of it. And we do look forward to showing mayor and council our new space in the future. So like I said, I wasn't here I just wanted to raise awareness of the Rocky Community Learning Council and the Rocky Learning Center and what we do in the community. So We would like to ask your support to keep us in mind for training needs. A lot of the town staff in the past have actually taken some of our training, whether it be Microsoft Office or the management skills certificate through Red Deer Polytechnic now, but it was Red Deer College then, and some old college programming some county residents have taken also. So we will be looking to have an open house in September-ish, so watch for that, and we will be sure to invite you all. This will be our first year in a new space, and we will be renting. So our third bullet is we will hopefully be asking for a property tax exemption for the space that we will be renting at that time. And then the last thing is we hope that you will know who we are and where we are and know that we're here.
Thank you very much. And I'll open it to questions. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's unfortunate that the provincial government wouldn't be more reactive on the the rent situation and that, but just for everyone's information, where have you moved to, or where are you moving to?
On March 1st, our lease is officially signed now for the old McMahon Family Services space, which is in the Feed-Right building up the street from the Mountaineer.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. We're looking forward to it.
Did we have any other questions or comments from any councillors? Well, I'd like to say thank you again and congratulations of your 44 years of service. And thank you so much for your hard work and dedication to the programs that you offer.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
So through the magic of Zoom, we have another delegation today, and we're just waiting for our lovely Laura to make that happen.
Thank you, Mayor Bates. She's on the line, just connecting with audio. Hello, Mary Ellen. You should have ability to unmute and start your video.
Hello.
Hi, welcome, Mary Ellen.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mary
now we
Ellen,
can-
you do have screen share capability if you choose.
Okay, just 1 second here. I'm gonna make sure I have everything I need here.
So Mary Ellen is from the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance, and we're very happy to have her here today.
Thank you so much. Can you see my PowerPoint presentation here?
It's just your agenda or your directory right now.
Okay,
There it is.
great. I'm just looking for my meeting notes now.
No one said Zoom was easy.
No, of course not. So, pardon me about this. I don't mean to waste any of your time. Can you still see my presentation up there on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, wonderful. So thank you so much. So my name is Mary Ellen Shane. I am a project coordinator with the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance. I want to begin my presentation today by thanking Council for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. And I also want to welcome the new councillors as well as those who are returning The NSWA has been working with Rocky Mountain House for the past few years, approaching about a decade actually. And I wanted to take an opportunity today to showcase what that relationship has looked like and the value of this mutually beneficial relationship. So in my presentation, I will be describing our landscape, like what is a watershed, and talking about our organization as well as our intermunicipal committee, which Rocky Mountain House also sits on. And then I'm going to be talking about some specific projects that we've been involved with, specifically those related to riparian health, as well as the value of our partnerships. So before I begin, I want to answer one of the most frequently asked questions that I get, which is what is a watershed? And so I want you to think of it as a giant funnel that captures water that falls on the landscape, and then it directs it to a central water body like a lake or a river. And as that water travels across the landscape, it picks up whatever is on the landscape and carries it with it. So whether that be soil on the landscape or sediments or nutrients or contaminants, and sometimes even salts. And no matter where you are on the landscape, you're in a watershed, and that water leads somewhere. In our case, that water filters into the North Saskatchewan River watershed. Our watershed is about 57,000 square kilometers. And there's a lot of variety in our landscape, from the Rocky Mountains and the glaciers. There's a lot of activity such as forestry, hydroelectric dams, chemical industry, agriculture, urban areas, and of course the flat rolling prairies. It also supplies drinking water to approximately 1.6 million people in Alberta alone. And eventually this river makes its way through Saskatchewan and Manitoba and combines with other rivers and eventually meets up in the Hudson Bay. The management of this river is really complex. There isn't one governing body that manages it all, but the province does have a framework to help us guide the management with a group of partners, as you can see here on the screen. And the framework is called Water for Life, and it shows it has three goals, which is the first, the safe and secure drinking water supplies, the second being healthy aquatic ecosystems, and the third being reliable water supplies for a healthy economy. So who then is the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance? And how do we fit in? So we are a part of that framework that I showed there on the screen. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a multi-stakeholder group that brings together those who use the watershed or affect it in some way. And the organization's mission is to protect and improve water quality, water quantity, and the health of our watershed by developing and sharing knowledge, as well as facilitating partnerships and collaborating on planning processes. And so you can find out more about our goals in our guiding document, which is called the Integrated Watershed Management Plan, which I'll show you a picture of next. But before I move on to that, I just wanted to say that we work a lot with municipalities. So we formed these three intermunicipal groups shown here in green, blue, and red in some of the more important regions of our watershed. We work with municipalities in these intermunicipal groups because municipalities have a large effect on the watershed as their landscape managers. And so I'll tell you about the Headwaters Alliance, which is shown here in the green in just a second. And as I said, we have some guiding documents that we have worked on over the years. One of them is a state of watershed health that tells us a bit of a report card on how our watershed is doing. Another is this integrated watershed management plan. And that gives us some goals about where it is that we want to go with our watershed and what we want to leave for the next generation. As well, we as an organization do a lot of education and awareness. And this book, the Living in the Shed book, is a real gem, and hopefully we can make that available to any of the council members free of charge and send a box to you, especially those who are new councillors. I know that the returning councillors probably have a copy already. And another thing that the NSWA does as well is provide educational forums. So we do this, we host roughly 4 to 6 every year. And we have a watershed series coming up. It's usually the first Wednesday of every month. And in April, it'll be the second, but you can see there on the left, those are our topics coming up for 2022. And so talking about the Headwaters Alliance, which is one of those intermunicipal watershed groups that I was referring to before. This is a collaborative planning group. It has representation from, five counties and 3 towns, including Rocky Mountain House. And we meet regularly to talk about water issues and solutions that can be tackled at that municipal level. So these are the 2 sub-basins that we really focus on. One of them is the Moda subwatershed, and it's fed mostly through precipitation that happens in the surrounding watershed through rainfall and snowmelt. It includes some of Alberta's most important recreational lakes, including Wabamun Lake and Buck Lake and Jackfish Lake, and as well as Modas Creek and Buck Lake Creek. And the Strawberry subwatershed is located there on the right, and it is mostly a prairie-fed creek system, and it includes some other very important creeks such as Strawberry, White Mud, Wizard Lake as well. And for these 2 areas, the Headwaters Alliance does have some priority issues of concern, including the loss of riparian areas, wetlands, and other environmentally sensitive areas, impacts from extensive agriculture, risk to groundwater quality and quantity, and the threat of aquatic and terrestrial invasive species. So our mission as an organization or as a committee of intermunicipal group is to leave the headwaters of the North Saskatchewan Basin in better or as good as or better condition than it is in today by working with governments, industry, and the public, and any other stakeholders that might have an impact on the river in this area. And we also have some guiding goals as well, such as those you can see here on the screen. So what does this organization, or what does this subcommittee do? So some of the things that we have accomplished in with the North Saskatchewan Headwaters Alliance is, first of all, education through a Headwaters canoe tour. We hosted this in 2016, as well as 2019, and then again in 2022. And I know that your mayor had participated in the original in 2016 and had a very interesting experience at that time. She was in my Voyager canoe actually at that time. But yes, we're planning on hosting another one in 2022. And this one brought together MLAs as well as municipal elected officials, as well as senior civil servants to talk about Headwaters issues and solutions. The next is this riparian health action plan that I wanted to focus on, and I will bring this up again later on in my presentation. But overall, you know, there was an initiative to learn more about our riparian health in our watershed, as well as come up with an action plan about how to, you know, bring about better riparian health overall. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. And then the third thing that this group also focuses on is this new watershed monitoring program. So it is a collaboration between the NSWA as well as the government of Alberta and EPCOR as well, using funds levied from water utility payers, and has enhanced the water quantity and quality monitoring happening on creeks flowing into the North Saskatchewan River. And some of the parameters that we looked at include things like selenium, which is obviously a very important indicator for the times now. I know that it has been important for Rocky Mountain House in terms of concerns around coal development as well. And so this is a multi-year project, and the results of the monitoring have been discussed at the Headwaters Alliance as well. And you can also look at cameras on a daily basis on each of those major river basins, major rivers flowing into the North Saskatchewan Basin, as well as some time-lapse videos. And those are all available on our website. And the last project that I wanted to discuss was this innovative project with the University of Guelph, as well as Alice Canada, to begin looking at the value of our ecosystem services in terms of what wetlands and riparian areas provide to our communities, and what that value could look like if we expanded it, or if we lost those assets over time. And so that is a project that we have been working with on with the members of the Headwaters Alliance to provide some input about how those natural assets really improve or provide goods and services to municipalities. So those are the major projects of the Headwaters Alliance, and I just wanted to delve a little bit deeper into one in particular, which is the Riparian Health Action Plan, because this one is really top of mind or a flagship, I would say, for this particular group. Before I go any further, I just wanted to clarify what a riparian area is. So that's the ribbon of green adjacent to any kind of water body. It's the transitional zone between the wet and the dry upland area. And it's a very sensitive region that is very important for maintaining ecosystems, providing habitat for biodiversity. And there's those kind of ribbon of green areas. They're sometimes described as being wetter than dry and drier than wet. And it's estimated that over 80% of all biodiversity spends at least one phase of its life cycle in these riparian areas. And in the case of fish, it would be 100% of all fish rely on riparian areas. So the reason why we decided to pursue riparian health assessment is because our Headwaters Alliance group, our municipal group, got together and said, what kind of projects can we work on together? And I said, well, what can we do as NSWA help you in the work that you're already doing to be good stewards of this land? And since they were all working on riparian areas anyway, we decided they all had some sort of in-house restoration program on the ground doing restoration work on riparian areas, and they wanted to have a bigger picture of where it is that they're going with this project. So we pooled our money, we leveraged a lot of the municipal grants, and we pooled our money in order to do an assessment of riparian health in the North Saskatchewan Basin. We started with the Headwaters Modeste, then we did Strawberry, and then we actually, NSWA expanded it even further across the rest of our basin going east. And what the results of that project showed is that 46% of our riparian areas are in good shape. We assessed 17,000 kilometers, which is an enormous achievement, considering we only knew, previous to this project, we only knew a couple, the results of a couple 100 kilometers in our entire basin. So now we know the results for 17,000 kilometers. And as I said, 46% health. And so, what does that mean? Well, we had to put our minds together and ask the question about, what is it that we want to leave for the next generation? And they mentioned that they set a health target of 65%. They said, we want to get to 65. So there's a little bit of work to go in terms of getting from 46 to 65. And this, I just wanted to showcase that this strategy that outlines that health target of 65% was approved by the Headwaters Alliance in September of 2021, as well as the Sturgeon Alliance, which is the other intermunicipal group for the Sturgeon Subbasin. And that was both of those were approved in September of 2021.
Mary Ellen.
Yes.
Hi, sorry. we usually have a time limit of 10 minutes on presentations. So not to put pressure on, but we're just squeaking past that. So like, I'm going to give you a little bit more time as long as no one in council objects to that, because I'm really interested in to hear more, but I just wanted to just make you aware of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. With permission, I can keep going or I can end it here.
Yeah, if you could keep going, but just know that we're over your limit now.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. It's busy.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that we do have results specifically for Rocky Mountain House, showcasing, we did an assessment of the riparian health in Rocky and specifically for Trappers Creek, and it showed that 55% was in good shape. And so with this project, we also highlighted some areas that are priorities for doing restoration and conservation, and that report has been made available to council. And just to cap it off, to mention that we do highlight and illustrate this information, all of these data sets on our new website called the riparian.info. And you can go to that at any time, and it provides the data, it provides resources for what to do about it, access to programs to help do the restoration and conservation projects. And then when you do those projects, to celebrate your successes and showcase the good work that you've done with other communities. Here are some session dates for when you can learn more about that riparian web portal. And just to in summary, talk a little bit about the benefits of continued partnership. We, through working with the NSWA, with Rocky Mountain House, we're able to facilitate intermunicipal partnerships. We're able to leverage the donations that you give us to get more grant support to put more work on the ground in your area. We have expertise with project management, and then we're always doing ongoing education and awareness about the health of our watershed. So thank you so much for your time, and I really do apologize for going over.
Oh, that's perfect. It's just my job to let you know where we're at.
Yes.
So I really appreciate your time, and I think we'll open it up to council if we have any questions or any comments from anybody. So Councillor Auld.
Hi, Marion. Thanks very much for the presentation. I'm just curious, do you have, like you said, you have all the monitoring stations for the different river bodies. Is that available on your website as far as where all the results are posted as far as heavy metals and where we're at today and where we were?
Yeah, so those are actually mostly available on the Alberta Rivers website, and so the results of those water quality assessments should be there, and I can send that link to council after the presentation is over, so you can have access to it. You can access that website through our website as well, but I can send you the direct link to that river basin, and that's a GOA website.
I would appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank you.
Did we have any other council comments or questions? Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate, and there was a lot of information that you provided for us that we have attached with so thank you so very much.
Oh, you're very
appreciate
welcome.
your time.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye.
So would we like to make a motion? We do 5.1 and then for some reason I keep thinking we have to do a motion between yes. I didn't make my notes as good as I'd like today. So moving on to 5.1 to adopt the budget meeting minutes of January 11th and 12th of 2022. So I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Auld.
I was just going to make that motion that we accept the budget meeting minutes if there's no discussion.
I'm opening it up for discussion. No discussion from anybody. So all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 5.2 to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022. Counselor Phillips.
I'll make a motion to adopt the council meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So 6.1 delegation business and 6.2 delegation North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance. Did we have any further questions or conversation we wanted to have on that? Nope. So could I have a motion? Counselor Fraser.
I will move that we accept the Rocky Community Learning Council presentation for information.
All in favor? And that's carried. So we need a second motion. So, sorry, Tracy had her hand up. Counselor Guerrero.
I will make a motion to accept 6.2 delegation from the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance from today, February 1st, 2022, for information. Did I say that?
That's perfect. Yep, I think that's great. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 7, we don't have any old business. Number 8, new business. So moving on to 8.1, there's an RFD drafting a meeting protocol policy. Sorry, Mr. Kraus, did you want to?
Mayor, so this is Councilor All's notice of motion, so it would be appropriate for him to speak to it.
Councilor All.
Okay, so I made this motion. There's just numerous reasons why I'd like to see having any meetings with having a direction of council or a decision of council. I'd like there to be more than one person present, whether it's 2 council members, whether it's Leonard and I or Tina and Shane, whoever present at these meetings. Comes reasons why, just so we have proper messaging coming back to council to discuss. So we can have more perspectives present at the meeting, take notes, ask questions. There's been numerous occasions where there's very differing opinions on what actually transpires at meetings. Having more than one person there would clarify that. I think I see it as increasing the level of trust from the public and council members that side deals may not be prevalent. It's more of a transparent system. Just shows council working as a team, and most importantly, I think it would encourage third-party groups to come to council's delegations and not trying to forward their agenda through individual council members. That's basically the nuts and bolts of it.
So would we like, Councillor Phillips, we'll open that for discussion then?
I actually like this idea. I mean, ultimately, it'd be nice to have every group or organization present to council, then we're all hearing information at the same time from the same source, getting the same questions and answers back and forth. I mean, in an ideal world, that would be great. But I think when we're meeting with interest groups, no matter what that group is, if it's only one counselor or mayor or whoever it happens to be, we're only getting one viewpoint. And I like the fact that if we have 2 members there, then at least we're getting varying viewpoints. And sometimes those viewpoints may differ and may conflict, but at least we're getting both two sides of a story, I guess. But ideally, I would like to see, presentations to council and then we all get the same information.
Councillor Boniface.
Because I'm just asking for clarification. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just need clarification. I've had, I'll say, interest groups approach me personally because the people know who I am, and they want to be involved. The instruction I give them is to come with their committee, get on the agenda, and make a presentation to us. Now, that's how I've been doing it. Is that wrong, or what are you saying? I decide I want to start an organization and I come to you because you and I are friends and I talk to you about it. are you saying, no, you hold on, I'm gonna call Tina, she's gonna come over and we're gonna talk about this? I'm kind of, show me how it works, please.
No, the push would be exactly what you said, to have them come as a delegation. Like Len said, ideally, everybody that wants something from council should sit in those chairs and have that discussion. That's 100%. Some people aren't gonna want to go that route. They're just gonna say, Shane, I want you to just spearhead this for me. Let's run with this.
Yeah, fair enough.
That can be set as a meeting case. Sure, let's meet Tuesday night. I'll grab Len, I'll grab whoever, mayor, and we'll sit and discuss it. If they want to have a more of a formal meeting, if it's the mayor and CAO, that if it's here in the building, that type of thing. But ideally, the push is to get everybody sitting at those chairs. And if they don't want to do that, then at least we have more of a perspective from their point of view. Have different, like you might ask one question, I might ask another one.
Perfect.
So it just gives more clarity.
Thank you.
Counselor Frazier.
I like the idea, and I think it helps on a couple fronts. I think, first of all, it makes the process clear, so it allows us to say, have you filled out a delegation form? Would you be interested in coming to council? And I think it helps to kind of draw that line between, I've met with some person on the street and they've got a great idea and they're talking to me, and that's a great idea. I invite you to come to council, and then I'd like to meet with you. At the point where they want to sit down and have a meeting, that to me, to the public, looks like an official meeting. And for official meetings, just for everybody's protection and everybody, just so that everybody agrees and sees what's going on, I think that way there's not a he said, she said kind of event going on. I think it makes it clear it's an official meeting. There's more than one person, whether it's admin and council or multiple counselors. I just think it will help keep, kind of any slipping off the edge of the narrative, because it's all been done and everybody's privy to the knowledge. So I like the idea. I think it's a good way to teach people the process.
Counselor Hutchinson and then Counselor Boniface.
I agree. It would do a couple things. Right now, the interpretation of the requests that people are asking, when there's only one person, you voice how you're interpreting what they're asking, whereas again, back to, I think a couple of you already said, everybody takes it, writes the information down, you're on the same page. And the idea that there would be some type of a guideline for people to follow would keep it consistent, so that we're not, even the questions that we may be asking of them, is this just a funding proposal? Is this a design? Is it, but just to have something that is a little bit more concrete than just, yeah, I'll meet you in the back flower bed for a discussion kind of thing. So I'm for it.
Counselor Boniface.
I would also like then, I think it's a good idea for sure. Would it also be used in Councillor Alt in place of a complaint? So I'm an interest group that's involved with the community, and I have a complaint about how the town's treating my organization, and I'm complaining about that. Again, I've instructed them they need to come here, but they want to talk to me, because at the time I go, okay, wait, I'll get a hold of Councillor Alt, we'll go for coffee, we'll sit down, you tell us our complaint, then we both are on the same page. I'm just asking that question.
I think complaint driven issues, they need to follow there is processes right now for that. They're supposed to contact the town. They're supposed to go through the proper channels. I don't think this isn't for complaints. That policy is already in place, I feel. So you're going to get the complaints from everybody, period. It's not going to, whether you say, no, let's set up a meeting, they're not going to want to set up a meeting, they want to give you their 30 seconds and be done with it. So no, I think complaints still go through the proper channels as we have set up as it is right now.
Thank you.
So I have a couple questions, because I don't feel like anybody's meeting in the back flower bed on a Tuesday in the rain. I'm like, I'm not sure what you're doing with your time, but I haven't been in any flower beds lately. It's pretty cold out. So, it's my understanding as our jobs as counselors, and especially I'm confused, because I feel like Counselor Ald is sort of indirectly by directly making comment towards meeting, because the only meeting that has happened that we brought it forward was one that I was asked to present, that I had other members of, like I had the Reeve with me, and I had members of town administration with me at the time. So I feel that this is going to complicate setting meetings when community groups want to come and discuss things. I've been following things like come and speak to the, to council about things, but there's also information that they would like to pass on that perhaps they would like, counselors to, we were elected by the public. And so the public should have a right to come up and talk to us and have meetings with us and present information and explain things to us, so that we're informed. It doesn't mean that they can't go to 6 other people or 7 other people. But right now, I feel that, it would make my job as mayor rather difficult, because I'm getting a lot of requests, as do other counselors, to have meetings with people and to set times that would work for other people. We're all very busy. Plus, sometimes they specifically request to meet in private. Sometimes they do that so that they can bounce an idea off to see if they have support, so that when they bring it, because one of the things in politics is never ask for a vote until you already know how everybody's going to vote. And so sometimes people are setting meetings with counselors so that they can get a feel for that counselor's representation, so that when they bring it, they know how all the other counselors feel about that. And I think that it takes some of our impartiality away if we're subjected to every meeting that we have has to be in a team. And we all have different perspectives. That's why we were all elected. So we want perspectives. I want to hear Marin's perspective. I want to hear Dave's or Counselor Ald's perspective. I want to hear everyone's perspective. And if the community groups would prefer just to talk to a specific counselor, I don't think that we should disallow it or set rules that would impede our ability to proper representation of our community. Counselor Phillips.
The way I'm reading Counselor Ald's version of this policy, I don't think that it's not going to preclude us from talking to someone in the grocery store. Bob walks up to us and says, "Hey, counselor, what do you think about this topic?" I think those kind of conversations always have to happen. That's what we're being elected for. People are going to talk to us about that. I think what Counselor Ald's getting at is when Bob, his organization ABC wants to have a meeting and they want Counselor Ald to attend by himself, then we should probably have admin or another counselor or the mayor or someone else there as well. Just because when that meeting is happening, and I'm picking on Counselor Ald, I'm just using him as an example. If Counselor Ald says something at that meeting, it can become council. Like it's hard for public to sometimes differentiate between what an individual counselor says and what council says. And if a statement is said at a meeting, all of a sudden that's the town's take on it. So, and it also protects Counselor Ald from something that he says being taken in a different context. There's someone else there that actually heard what was being said, and it makes it easier to say, no, that's not what was said. This was the intent of what I meant when that was being said. So I think that the conversations at Sobeys or the coffee shop or wherever, those will happen all the time. But when an organization or a group wants someone there to talk to, I think there should at least be two of us.
Counselor Ald,
And in the motion, the highlight of this motion is when the subject matter would require a decision or discussion of council. That's not the one-off meetings that when you're seeing somebody on the street. This is when a group wants to sit down and actually have a discussion and talk to one of us about an idea, or this is what we want you to push. If pick a group comes to me and wants to have a meeting with me and I don't like their pitch, well, that's as far as it goes. It doesn't get represented. It doesn't get put forward because I chose not to like that idea. But if Shane was in that same meeting with me and Shane's, no, I think that's a great idea. We need to bring this to council. We need to talk about it. We need to make this move forward. So it's a check and a balance, and it's just making sure that everybody has a proper policy to when they're moving forward.
Counselor Fraser,
Yes, I think kind of the crux is when a community group or anyone is coming to and wants a specific action, whether it's a decision or something that they want us to do, whether it's to support it or not support something. I think as soon as you have an official meeting, as soon as you have a meeting, there is an implication that you're going to negotiate in that meeting and you're going to come to a decision in that meeting. And I think a lot of people who do that don't realize that it all needs to come back to council. And that can cause some hurt feelings that this was said in the meeting, then it went back to council, and then council decided on a different tack. It kind of sets up an issue for a struggle between the different perspectives. Whereas I would prefer that everybody come as a delegation, but I understand that's not possible. So just to make sure that it's I don't know, fair and balanced, I think.
so like I would actually really like to see Counselor Ald's motion in writing, because in order to, like, I had no idea what your concept was before today. So I would really like it in writing, because when you click on it, there's nothing attached to it. It's really like vague. And when I discussed this with, so I would really appreciate having what you have in writing, like sent to us all in writing.
It is right here. Be resolved that council instruct administration to draft a meeting protocol policy for meetings with individual council members requested by interest groups, nonprofit, private business, other governments, that the subject matter would require a discussion or decision of council. That's the motion. Is to make a policy. So it would go to admin would make the policy, would come back to council for discussion, for tweaking, and then
We'll go to Counselor Boniface and then Counselor Phillips.
Maybe it's just because I'm so new, but I would never meet with a special interest group or a group without actually taking one of you with me, just for the simple fact that I wouldn't feel comfortable in doing that, and two, I would want one of yours opinion. And so I guess the question I ask is that not what we would do anyway? And do we really need a policy, or is that just something we would just naturally do because it's the right thing? So I understand why you're saying we need a policy, but I'm wondering,
Do we need the policy?
do we actually need it, or is that not what we're supposed to be doing? To me, it would just be the proper thing to do. I would not go meet with the car club without taking you with me, because you know what the hell you're talking about. If you're going to build something out of stone, that's different. But do you understand? Am I right?
So can I add on that? So I took Counselor Boniface with me to meet with Staff Sergeant Dinsdale, and then I was reprimanded to not do that, because if information is presented to two of us, it should be presented to all of us. So then, like, maybe we shouldn't have meetings at all. Like what? How do you draw the line? Like, can you clarify? Like how maybe Mr. Kraus could clarify what was different about that situation than what Counselor Ald is presenting.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So to start off, you were not reprimanded.
Well,
That meeting was set up by administration to meet the RCMP for an admin to admin meeting. And you and Councillor Boniface showed up 5 minutes before, which took everyone by surprise.
so
And that was a presentation that we would have requested the staff sergeant give to all of council.
I apologize for putting you on the spot. I misunderstood when you told me I wasn't allowed to come to the meeting because Staff Sergeant Dinsdale requested it. And
Just correction, your worship, I did not tell you not to come to the meeting. You showed up to the meeting.
so Staff Sergeant Dinsdale invited me to the meeting because we were trying to meet with him about the issue because we were concerned about it. And he said, I'm coming to town office, come when I come there. And so I apologize for interfering with something he had set up. I wasn't aware that that was a rule when he invited me to the meeting. So the clarification is if you're having a meeting with someone and I get invited to it, I have to ask permission. Like I just still am not clear on what the situation was.
So Mayor, I think what you just said, that you and Councillor Boniface were seeking information on your own from the RCMP.
Mhm.
That's not correct. I mean, if you're looking for more information from the RCMP, all of council should have heard that information. It should have been a request through administration to set up a meeting with the RCMP with council.
And so what is the difference then between having this meeting if someone wants to meet with us? Like, then two of us can't go. Like, I don't understand. Like, can you clarify the difference then for me?
So, Madam Chair, so this is Councillor Ald's motion, so I do not want to start debating his request. But I think what Councillor Ald is after, if it's a special interest group, be it a private corporation seeking information for the town to propose something, that two council members be present at those special interest meetings, where that item would have to come back to council for a full council discussion anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips
And
and then Councillor Fraser, or
I-
you're withdrawn,
So
and then Councillor Ald.
I think this very clearly shows that we need a policy of some sort to basically give us guidelines on what we're doing as far as meetings go. And to answer Councillor Boniface question about do we need a policy? These policies, again, outlive this council. They will follow through to the next council. Perhaps there would be someone on that council that this policy needs to be in place to keep the checks and balances in order. So that's why we have policies for everything. It's not for specific councils. It lives, it's a living document that goes into future councils. So that's why I think we need to have this as, it's for this council, it's for the next council, it's for the council after that. Just that everyone is aware of what the protocol is, what the policy is, what the procedure is. And there's no implication of improprieties or anything like that. It's just, we have a policy, we follow it.
Councillor Ald and then Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, that was exactly what Len said. As far as what you brought up in the meeting with CAO and the RCMP, I have no idea. That's the first I've heard of anything about that, so I'm not sure how that even fits. It's a totally different scenario than what I'm discussing here.
Well, I apologize. It was my misunderstanding. I was under the impression that two of us couldn't meet, that if two of us are going to meet and get information, that everybody would. So it was my misunderstanding of the situation. I apologize. Councillor Fraser.
I just want to speak to the whether we should have it as a policy or whether it's a convention. And I have to say the policy is nice. So if you're getting pressure from a group and they're like, I really want you to meet with my group. And I really think we need to talk about this. We want to have this meeting. And I'm feeling uncomfortable that there's a lot of pressure, or I could go to that meeting and I could feel pressured to give information or to make a decision. Just because you're there by yourself. You don't know what they're going to say once they leave that meeting, what they said, you said. And for me, for protection, because I may not know, I may not be an expert in that area, I might want to bring Mr. Kraus. So I think it's a good way to say, this is our policy, this is why it's our policy. I'd be happy to book you a meeting. I don't think it's to prevent us from having meetings. I think it's to make sure that we are able to be comfortable with what's being discussed.
So at this point, I'd like to take a 5-minute. At this point, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess before we continue the discussion, because we're 1 hour in, it's 2 o'clock. So if we could pause, do you think she hears us?
I sure do, Mayor Bates. Thank you.
It's hard to tell if you can hear us, Laura, when you're not right in the same room.
I sure can. I'll just have Tracy turn off the microphone system.
So meet back at just before 5 after. That sound fair? Is that right? Sorry, we're ready? I should have asked her, do I wait for that to, is she gonna tell us? There we go.
You are all good to go, Mayor Page.
Thank you very much. So back to our discussion, I believe Councillor Ald had a comment now.
Yeah, this discussion here has just actually solidified my desire to have this on two folds. This motion I didn't bring up specifically for you, Mayor. I brought it up for all of council, so it would include everybody. And the discussion that you just had with the CAO, you said one thing, well, no, that's not how it happened. That's how what I felt, but that wasn't actually the direction. So it's covers all of our butts having that extra person there, and it gives us a little security that everything coming out of that meeting is everybody's clear on it and what direction it is, and there's just no gray area. He said, she said. It totally solidifies this, what my motion is.
Councillor Fraser.
And I did just want to say that it would still come back to us, right? That when like admin would write the policy and we'd all get to look through it and make changes. And then at the end of that, we'd make that decision. So it doesn't lock us into anything, and it doesn't prevent us from adding and taking things away from what is provided.
Okay. Councillor Boniface.
If everybody's good, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we ask administration to come up with a meeting protocol policy and bring it back to council, please.
All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that's 8.1. 8.2. I lost it on my machine. Just give me a moment. Should be straightforward. So we've got a request for decision to establish September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, as a civic holiday. Do we have any comments, or Mr. Kraus, did you want to speak to this at all?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is actually from council's strategic plan, where council put in the strategic plan that September 30th be reviewed by council as a civic holiday for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So administration is bringing it forward for council's official consideration. One important note to make, even though council declares it a civic holiday, that does not impose it on any business or schools or any other organization within town. It would just be a civic holiday that's would be through town facilities and staff.
Did we want to have any discussion? Does anybody have any comments or questions on this? So Councillor Phillips.
I mean, I think with, you know, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and all the items that came out of that, and with the federal government, you know, creating September 30th as a day for truth and reconciliation, I think it's a good leadership step for the town of Rocky Mountain House to do this, and I think this will I will fully support this.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion to establish September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, as a civic holiday. All in favor? And that's carried.
So your worship, if I could just add on to that, to save administration some time in a future report. So our personnel policy would have to be updated to just list that day as a general holiday in our personnel policy. So instead of us writing another report and bringing it back, the council would consider just passing a motion that the personnel policy be amended to include the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as a general holiday.
So I'd like to make a motion described as Mr. Kraus has just very eloquently put to update the administration policy for employees, personnel. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. 8.3, renaming the recreation facility.
Good afternoon, your worship and council. Before you today, just to provide an update and look for your thoughts on moving forward with the renaming of the recreation center. As you're aware that we've been working with the former name sponsor of the recreation center throughout the past year and a half, and due to financial situation, they were unable to continue with that sponsorship. That agreement was formally terminated in November of 2021. And so looking for council's thoughts and discussion on perhaps what a new name, old name for the facility could be. Presented a couple of options. My understanding is prior to the expansion, it was known as the Rocky Recreational Center. Other options that I've thrown out there, you're certainly welcome to throw others on the table, might be the Rocky Regional Recreation Center. I think we talked about that name perhaps at the service level review. The Rocky Sports and Wellness Center. Actually, I had a text this morning from one of our other town employees suggesting the David Thompson Sports and Wellness Center. So at this point, irregardless of what name we come up with, our thoughts administratively would be to on the front of the building, put the county logo on above one of the windows, the town logo where Adventure begins above the others, and then the name of the facility itself just above the doors. So looking for council's thoughts.
I have a quick thought, and then Mr. Councillor Phillips to do. Yeah, so I really like the name Rocky in it because it helps assist like sports groups when they're holding functions to narrow down at least what community, because sometimes you get that list of all the hockey places. And you're going, which community is this? And I really like that it says Rocky in it. Most people from the county, they say they're from Rocky in the area, so I think that would suit them as well. But I see Councillor Phillips has a light on.
I also like the word Rocky in there as well, simply because people from other communities, whether it's Cochrane or Calgary or Edmonton, where they're coming here, they're probably going to look up the word Rocky first. I do like Sports and Wellness Center more than the Regional Recreation Center, because it's more than just sports. It's more than just an arena. There's gyms, there's the Pottery Guild. I guess that's at the other, yeah. So I think it's just more than a sports place. So if it could say Sports and Wellness Center, then it's kind of inclusive to everything that is in there, as opposed to just a recreational center.
Councillor Fraser, and then Councillor Boniface, and then Councillor Farrell.
No, I know I might be creating more work, but I know that the streets in Nordegg, they just did a public engagement campaign where people put forward or voted on various street names. And I'd have to ask them specifically on how they rolled that out, but that was very successful in getting people engaged, and people seem really happy with the names. So I'm wondering if this might be we put a survey out and get some ideas, and maybe people might feel, they didn't get a lot of say in the first name. Maybe they, they have some great thoughts.
I know how they rolled it out because I voted on it, and I also had friends share that.
Yeah.
They did a survey contest that they opened it up to the public to name the streets, and then you could submit. And I don't know how they finalized it, but that was the process from the public's perspective, is that they had this kind of like a contest that you could win a street name,
Be selected.
it was like a contest.
Yeah, so I was wondering if that might be something that we'd be interested in, because I know sometimes we have surveys and they aren't the most exciting things in the world, whereas this is something that Everybody knows where it is. Everybody says what it's called a lot. So it might be something that would be worth looking at.
Could I have, sorry, Wes, I don't know your last name today again, all of a sudden. Could you reply to that? Because it's a time thing too. It's gonna like,
Well, one of the things administratively that we're dealing with right now is the preparation of our spring program guide. And so all the logos and all those things would need to change, right? So
is that something you'd like us to decide on today?
ideally, it would be nice to
Okay.
come away
Okay.
from
So
today.
no,
with-
that's
with-
gonna
with the
help
name.
us.
I certainly understand Counselor Fraser's, comments about opening up. And again, I thought about that, do we do that or do I just bring in a few suggestions and allow council to move forward with a decision? But it, in order for my staff to move forward with some of the things that we're planning, having a name,
Okay, so I think moving forward, we just might consider that today we're gonna try come up with something that's suitable if we all feel comfortable. And then so Counselor Boniface and then Counselor Caprero.
Because of what you just said and the time constraints that we've been given. The only thought that I had, if we had more time, we didn't realize we had the lack of time. But I heard the David Thompson but I was thinking we have other citizens in our community that have been prominent within our history. With David Thompson, his wife was instrumental as much as anything. And, we just talked a minute ago about truth and reconciliation, and there's we have a lot of Indigenous women in our community that are well known, and there's opportunities there as well. But under this thing with the time constraints and that, possibly that's not the road to go down this time. So thank you.
Counselor Caprero.
So for me, I really like the thought of having the town logo and the county logo on the building. I really like I like the name, the Rocky Regional Recreation Center. For me, when I think of wellness, I think of and maybe it's just me, but I think of massage or spa, and that's not really kind of what is there. So just for myself personally, I really like the Rocky Regional Rec Center.
Counselor Hutchinson.
Sorry. Wes, you said that there's still items that have the Rocky Recreation Center name on them. Is there a lot of that? And even with marketing materials that are left over that we wouldn't have to be spending more money on marketing, branding?
the only thing, I think the weights that are up in the weight room still have the Rocky Recreation Center stamped on them. That old logo, actually the coat I wear is an old piece of, clothing that was from back then, but very limited. We don't have anything promotional material wise that still has that old name on, other than the weights of those types of things that are in the current fitness center.
Okay. I also like the idea. I love the idea of the two logos on there. And I think it is important, like a few of the counselors had said, keeping the name, keeping Rocky on it, because you're doing a search, it pops up, any Google search, anything like that. So whether it be, I agree with you about the wellness thing too. I think spa kind of, and it's not, well, it's kind of humid in the pool. It could be kind of splash, but I like just I like regional in it, because that lends to each, the county and all of us together. But I would be fine with just Rocky Rec Center or Rocky Regional Rec Center.
Counselor Fraser.
I was just gonna say, I have no preference as to whether it's the recreation center or the sports and wellness center, but I do agree with Counselor Hutchinson. I think that regional should be in the name. It is a regional service. We do it with the county, and I think it's a good nod to our relationship. So I think I'm okay with either of those, but I do think whether it's the Rocky Regional Recreation Center or the Rocky Regional Sports and Wellness Center, I think that we should make sure we mention Rocky. We also mention our regional partners.
I agree. I see him next. It's okay. I got it today. I'm on top of things, Len. I just want to have my little part about the name. I really like the Rocky Regional Recreation Center, and wellness isn't, that's the clinic. That's what it, sorry, like, don't, not to put this, but yeah. And so Councillor Ald had a comment.
And I really agree with most of the council. I like the idea with the Clearwater County logo and the Rocky Mountain House logo on there, as well as Rocky Regional Recreation Center.
So I think maybe if we just had like a small, like sort of vote, how many people, just to move with time constraints so that we can sort of come to a decision. How many people feel comfortable with Rocky Regional Recreation Center? Could I just have a show of hands to see like where we're at?
I'm comfortable with both,
So would you like us to make a
I have a recommended alternative where you just fill in the blank there, with the name that you would choose.
Okay,
And then I would ask for a second resolution just to.
Please use your microphone, Wes.
sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, no, so the recommended alternative would be for council to instruct to proceed with naming the facility, and you fill in the name, and then the second resolution would be moving forward with the installation of the town and county logos.
I'll do Councillor Phillips and then Councillor Ald.
I was just gonna make a motion if there was no further
Oh.
discussion, that's all.
Okay,
Okay,
was there, before you make, is there any further discussion on that? Okay, so now.
so I was gonna make a motion that council instructs administration to proceed with renaming the recreational facility to the Rocky Regional Recreation Center.
All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
The second resolution.
Sorry, I was getting that. I had to put a
Oh,
check mark on
sorry.
my page. So I'm back to you, Wes.
Yeah, no, the second alternative was a second resolution just to proceed with the installation of the logos.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Be it resolved that council instruct administration to proceed with the installation of the Clearwater County logo and the Rocky Mountain House Where Adventure Begins logo to the front of the Rocky Regional Recreation Center.
Excellent. All in favor? There's no further discussion. And so that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving on to 8.4, discussion about a social media policy. So our council, I brought this forward. Our council currently doesn't have a official social media policy for council. And Mr. Kraus had one sort of already temporarily drafted up from the past. So I just asked him if he could add it to the agenda and show us today so that we could have, you know, start some discussions about a social media policy for council, just for the same reasons that we talked about earlier for policies, just to give us better direction. And Mr. Kraus, did you want to have any comments about where like that you had it from before, or about the policy?
So your worship, so this policy was developed about 3 years ago while we developed the social media policy for administration. Because at that time, we just hired a new communication coordinator, so we developed a policy for social media. Administration took it on its own to draft 2 policies. While it was actually going to be combined into one, but it got too complex, so we just pulled the council one out. But that was never brought forward because it was never requested or required.
Thank you for background on that. So would we like to have any discussion about the policy as that was written up for changes or?
Mayor, so just for process here, so council has
Thank you.
given no direction for the development of a social media policy for council. So council should probably put a motion on the table that one be drafted before even trying to look at a policy specifically.
Thank you very much. Counselor Hutchinson.
I was just wondering, because I don't have the code of conduct in front of me, but is there some of these items already in the code of conduct, council code of conduct? So we don't have to do extra work.
So your worship, so in the code of conduct bylaw, yeah, there are restrictions or guidelines for interfacing with the public for council. They're not specific to social media. But that interaction is covered under code of conduct.
So could we just add to the existing code of conduct, or would it be a better idea to have a separate policy as presented?
So through your worship to Councillor Hutchinson, actually, yeah, you could add to the code of conduct bylaw, and then at least in one sense, it'd be one comprehensive document versus having two different ones.
Sorry, Counselor Ald.
I'm just curious what the result of this policy would be. What are we hoping to gain? And what would we want to see in the policy, just as an overview?
So it was brought to my attention that we don't have a policy. It's been on my list of things to do since we did our beginning training. I know quite a few other municipalities have a social media to avoid issues on social media. It's obviously new. In our code of conduct, it doesn't have any of the definitions that are listed like in the policy does. Like it doesn't say about the copyrights, it doesn't say about town content or private message or social media account, doesn't have any of those definitions in it when you look at our code of conduct. And obvious I don't know how to discuss it without discussing some, it's been brought to my attention that perhaps we need one by members of our community due to recent events. Can I say that? Councillor Fraser.
I guess I feel that most of this is covered, at least in spirit, by the code of conduct. And if the goal is to have a policy that, you know, prevents all future distress or upset people, I don't think there's any policy in the world that's going to be able to stop that on social media. That's just the nature of social media. And sometimes people don't agree on social media and they feel attacked by it. But I feel like there's no amount of policy writing that is going to satisfy every perspective, which I think is one of the good things and one of the bad things about social media. So I feel like a lot of these are already covered, but that's just my perspective.
Councillor Boniface.
Because Mr. Kraus has the experience with this document and his recommendation about it could be added to our code of conduct, would we be better inclined to direct administration to come back to us with some sort of document that can be added to our code of conduct that would be kind of entailing this and the things that we already have, and just keep it simple and add what he said made sense about just adding it to our code of conduct?
So Mr. Kraus, would you like to comment on that? About what would be more beneficial administratively to do it as a policy or as in the bylaw?
So your worship, I mean, administratively, it doesn't really matter to us. I mean, the difference would be in a bylaw, it's a bylaw, so it can only be amended by a bylaw. So it's more stringent, I guess, in that way. I mean, council is not going to bend from a bylaw, where a policy is left to the discretion of council. So if it's in a bylaw, it probably would have more teeth as per se versus a policy.
Thank you very much. Counselor Ald had a comment or
Yeah,
question?
Just moving forward, if the direction of this policy is to limit or gag personal opinion or how we communicate with the public, I'm not in favor of it. I think the code of conduct does govern our day-to-day operations as well as social interactions. So if this is a move to try and limit our accessibility or the public's accessibility to us, then I'm not in favor of it. If it's, I'm just guessing because I don't know what the policy is, what its design is supposed to be.
So my intention with the policy is not to gag anyone. We all have freedom of speech. It's just to give us a little bit of a framework and some guidelines to follow, because as elected officials, we speak for the council and the Town Rocky Mountain House. And it just gives us some guidelines of how to effectively and communicate, so we can actually do more communication on social media if we have some guidelines to follow. Makes it easier for us to be on there, not harder. Councillor Hutchinson?
Maybe what we need to look at is, I mean, we reviewed the code of conduct earlier when some of us were still new, not really maybe paying attention to everything. Maybe the idea is putting this policy idea, or be it adding it to the bylaw, on hold and sit down and review the code of conduct in a little bit more depth than what we did originally, and have everybody review it at home first, read it 10 times before we get here, and then have a discussion. And maybe we will find it's all there.
That sounds great. Councillor Phillips?
I like Councillor Hutchinson's idea. Because we're looking at a specific topic here, a very fine, fine line. So I think this is something that we do need to go back to the code of conduct bylaw to see if, first of all, if we think that this is covered in the code of conduct bylaw, because if it is, then we don't have to do anything. If it's not, do we need to tweak the code of conduct bylaw would be a second topic. But I think Councillor Hutchinson is correct that we need to look at the code of conduct bylaw first. If we're comfortable that this is covered in that, then we're good.
Absolutely. Mr. Kraus, would it be possible to add some of these things into the code of conduct bylaw as like what it would look like for the changes, to add things from this policy to the bylaw? Or do you think we should like look at I've looked through it since Thursday really good, and it doesn't specifically clarify. What do you think we should proceed with administratively to suggest a bylaw update and then review both of them side by side?
So your worship, as Councillor Hutchinson suggested, is just do a review of the code of conduct bylaw first and see how council is comfortable with it going forward on the social media aspect of it.
Okay.
I mean, both the code of conduct bylaw and this sample policy really allows council to have their own opinions in social media. It's just that they are personally responsible for
it. So moving forward on the agenda, did you make a motion, Councillor Hutchinson? Tracy, I missed it if she did.
No.
So do we want to just table this policy until a future meeting? Is that? Or
So,
just
your worship, right
accept
now,
it?
there's no direction to administration.
Okay.
So
To suggest that we accept the sample council social media policy as information and proceed with a meeting to review the council code of conduct in more depth.
Can I adjust her motion to make it that council or administration review this one, because this was just a sample that he had kind of on file. He might want to like update it and then do that to your motion. Could we adjust?
I don't feel that that is necessary
Okay.
at this time to add to my motion.
Okay.
So your worship, I would just ask for a little clarification. So to a committee of the whole meeting to review. So
Yes, a committee of the whole review meeting. Is that right?
yeah, so just
So
date or how soon? I guess we're just looking for.
To have that meeting as soon as we could schedule it, because this is fresh in everybody's and a hot topic right now, so.
can we include it with the one that we're already trying to set up? So is that a no or a yes?
Yeah, I mean, there could be more than one item on that agenda, so we could do that then, yes.
Sure.
I was just,
I don't need to review everything I just tried to say.
so I'm gonna ask Tracy, would you mind a rephrase, like repeating Counselor or Counselor Hutchinson's, so that we're clear on what we're voting on?
Sorry, I don't actually have it all down, but we're moving it to the next Cal meeting for discussion. Or committee of the whole meeting, sorry.
Mr. Kraus, could you clarify what you
So
understand her
be it
motion?
resolved that council review the code of conduct bylaw at the next committee of the whole.
All in favor? And that's carried. 9.1, small grant request from Foothills Society. Mr. Kraus, did you want to speak towards that?
So, yeah, thank you, your worship. So under the town's grant policy, organizations can apply up to $500 or a small grant for different events in town. So the Foothills Society is applying to council for $500 for the round dance that they want to hold on February 26th at the Lousofit Center.
Counselor Phillips?
This is a perfect example of why we have the small grant and large grant intakes that we have and the dollars allocated to them. To me, this is a great event. You're going to bring 200 to 300 people to Rocky, and it's going to promote our Indigenous First Nations culture and learning. I think it's a great fit. I support this one.
Mr. Kraus, when we did the football grant or the hockey grant, I see that on their expenses, the hall rental, that's for the community center. Would we do it like that? We would do it that we give them the $500 towards their hall rental and then like that?
Yeah, your worship, we could do it two ways, either that way, but it's still called a grant. We just do the transfer of funds internally from council's grant fund to the revenue of the Lousofit. Or we can issue a check to the Foothills Society for $500 for them to use as they see fit.
Counselor Auld, did I say that you had a comment?
Just that I support this for the $500 grant as well.
So I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry, Len, I thought you had your hand up. I'd like to make a motion that we grant the Foothills, sorry, what are they called? Foothills Society, $500 towards the rent of the facilities. Any discussion? Counselor Auld?
Do we need to specify for the rent of the facilities, or do we just need to approve that they're?
Well, we could do it either two ways, so I'm just picking one way. right?
I suggest that we just give them the 500 and let them, because they may have other sponsors, whatever that may pay for different things. So just give them the 500.
Okay, so I'd like to amend my motion to say that I would like to grant the Foothill Society the $500 grant for their event. All in favor? Any other discussion? Sorry, any other discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Nine point two. Mr. Kraus, did you want to?
Yeah, thank you, your worship. So actually, this event occurred in Rocky yesterday, but we brought it to council's attention through the package. But there's also a virtual session on February 3rd if council wishes to participate in that. And this is the Federation of, or the National Police Federation. So they are discussing the pros and cons of a provincial police force. Of course, they represent the RCMP because that's their union. So we're just bringing it to council attention if council wants to attend. We also have the Solgen coming here also for public engagement on a police force. And I think that invitation has gone out to council over.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Did anybody listen in or just on this last one on 31st?
No, we were in our course
the same
yesterday
time.
afternoon, so none of us were able to attend this. I did attend the Alberta Municipalities workshop on provincial policing. So I do have questions already for when we have our meeting with the Solicitor General on the 8th. I have quite a few questions.
So can we make a motion? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I don't think we need to make a motion, we just need to accept this as information. So I'll make a motion to accept this request as information.
All in favor? And that's carried. Ten point one, correspondence for information. Is there any discussion on any of the items listed there? Councillor Hutchinson?
I just had one on the Alberta 55 plus kind of directed at Wes. Is this something that the rec board will be possibly discussing?
If you could use a microphone, Wes.
He's just moving, Laura, he's across the room. Sorry.
It's certainly something we can discuss at the Recreation Board. It's not something I had received directly, so
Oh,
I can certainly add it to the agenda, or you can bring it up as an
okay,
agenda item at our meeting tomorrow.
okay. That was all I was wondering.
Is there any other discussions? Councillor Phillips, your light is on, so I'm asking.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I
Just
just,
forgot to turn it
I
off.
don't want to, no, I don't want to miss you if you're anxious to say anything. So I'd like to make motions to accept for information 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, and 10.6. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So 11.1, Mayor's report. Did anybody have any questions or comments about anything? I think we discussed the garbage thing that I had attached earlier. So we'll go 11.2. I think I had a question. Yes, Councillor.
Motion to accept it as publicly presented.
All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So 11.2 council reports. Did anyone have any questions or comments? Yes. Counselor
I'm
Boniface.
going to make it public. Thank you, Marina, for helping me with my report.
I just wanted to hear from actually Counselor Phillips, because you had a report on the Alberta Municipalities Provincial Police discussion. Did you want to highlight any of the items that that were in your report for council to discuss?
Sure, I can go over that very quickly. So this was Alberta municipalities put on this workshop. So the biggest thing was, how is a provincial police force going to impact municipalities in Alberta? So the Price Waterhouse report, showed a lot of different models, and some of the models we're looking at is, how does a provincial police force and we have a local police committee, how do they blend together? Do we still have policing committees? Do we not have policing committees? That was one of the questions that comes up. Some of the transition costs and how much of it'll cost to move over to a provincial police force was brought up. And also the $500 to $700 million a year that the federal government puts into the RCMP will be dollars that are just gone, because I'm sure the federal government won't put any money into a provincial police force. So these are all questions that, is there going to be a referendum to the public about this on an upcoming ballot? How does the MPSA agreements and the PPSA agreements, how are they going to play out when it comes to a provincial police force? Because right now in our detachment, we have an MPSA, which is the town of Rocky Mountain House, and then there's a PPSA, which is the provincial side of it, and there's also federal components. How does that blend together in a provincial police force? So there's just a whole myriad of questions here that I have in my report, that when we get to meet with the Solicitor General, that I'll be happy to bring up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that extra information. Because you're right here. So is there any other questions about any of the reports? I'd like to make a motion to accept all the council reports for information. Excuse me. All in favor? There's no other discussion. And that's carried. Thank you very much. So 12.1 action list. Mr. Kraus, do you want to make any comments on that?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I think we're pretty much caught right up with everything. If you could respond to Ms. Button on the Trails Act quote, we could get that one knocked off.
I got a little busy with emails.
So I think that's it, unless council has any questions.
No, Councillor Fraser.
If there is no further discussion, I will move that we accept the action list as presented.
All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Administrative inquiries, 3.1, Councillor Fraser.
It would be a reply.
We have noticed a error than one that went online there, but it's under the administrative inquiries. I think it had Council Fraser and that's actually somehow got carried over from the last meeting. So no, so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I printed it off. It's a little different than the one presented in front of me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So our apologies.
So, yeah.
Technical error on our computer software.
I thought, I'm assuming that's one of mine coming back. 'Cause I don't know.
So if there's no.
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I saw that same thing. I saw my name on there and I thought, what did I do that I need to? So I actually have 4 administrative inquiries.
Okay.
The first one is, I know we sent a letter to Minister Sonny about the Highway 11 twinning project. And I just thought maybe it might be time to do a follow-up letter, because we did, we had some personal conversations with Minister MacGyver and Minister Nixon that confirmed, what some of the information that she was not privy to. So I thought maybe it might be time to send a follow-up letter just asking, if she's got that information, what is going to happen with that information.
I signed that. We haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm looking for who, I signed that letter. I remember signing that letter, but we haven't heard back yet.
No, so your worship, so we did a follow-up letter from our meeting at
Mhm.
Alberta Municipalities, just to ensure it didn't get lost in the provincial side of things, but we have not heard back from that letter, but
Yeah.
that was quite a while ago that we sent.
That-
it over.
that's why I was wondering, maybe it might be time for another one just to get, because I know this issue is gonna run out of time quickly for us, so. Just thought maybe we might send another one to expedite a response. Or ask for a response.
I don't think they're gonna lose a letter from council. Like, I think we could just wait until.
Okay.
I feel comfortable waiting a little bit longer.
Yeah, your worship, I can phone the deputy minister and just administratively inquire.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Okay.
Another inquiry is, have we got our council meeting date set yet with Clearwater County?
For
No.
which one?
Well, we were having further council dates set for the future. I'm just wondering if those dates have been set. yet.
Yeah, they were,
ICC.
ICC.
No, with full council.
Yeah, they were set. Because
were-
I had Tracy move one of them, right? That day, because she had it on,
Okay, I just haven't seen any, I haven't seen any,
unless I'm
anything
getting,
come up in our
wrong
agenda.
Tracy.
so-
There's two Tracy's. I might be getting them mixed up with ICC.
ICC has been set, we've set those, but not
Sorry,
two councils as a whole.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with two councils as a whole.
like the stronger together tri-council.
At our last council meeting that we had together, we had committed that we were going to have future dates set for the rest of the year. And I was just wondering if those dates have been set yet.
Sorry, there's a lot of dates
No,
going on.
it, in our action list, it has the Stronger Together agreement and move forward is going to ICC.
Yes.
But the next step to commit meetings has not yet. And I think our next one is March 2nd.
Yeah.
Because I believe we only went, ICC's only, I think we set 4 for the next year.
Yeah.
So that's all we know for now.
And I get that's ICC meetings, but I know we
Yeah.
talked about having both full councils, just to have regular meetings, just to.
Meet and greet.
I think, I
just-
remember
just have
being
a
like,
stronger, stronger working relationship was what it's about.
absolutely, I agree that we should do that. Counselor Alt, did you have a comment?
No, I have an administration.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll get
So
to you next.
I'll just move on to my third one. The March 15th council date, I know we'd kind of discussed this when we first were doing our organizational meetings. Now that we removed one meeting in March, because some of us are going to be at the RMA convention. I know myself, Councillor Hutchinson and Mayor Beach will be at the RMA convention. If we were to move the March 15th council date to March 22nd to accommodate our,
We already did that.
we did that for sure.
Yeah, we did
So
it for sure.
I've still got,
It's still in my.
I've still
calendar,
got
the
two,
15th.
I've got two in my calendars as a 15th and 22nd. That's why I was
I only
clarifying.
have the 22nd because I
Yeah,
wrote it
mine's on the
in my hard
22nd.
copy.
Oh, I've got both.
I've got the same thing.
That's why I was inquiring, just to make sure it had been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so your worship, it has been officially moved. Council did that at the org meeting. You
Okay.
probably have it in twice because your meetings were probably sent out to you for years
Before.
on the
Okay.
previous council. So we'll see if we can.
Okay,
correct
perfect.
that.
Yeah, I just had it in twice. I'm like, I'm not sure now.
Yeah.
So I just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah, because we just got sent that save the date this week.
Yeah.
And I checked that. So.
Yeah,
It
I
won't let you
I can't delete them
I
either,
can't
so,
delete them, So.
yeah.
And I don't have anything or I would have wrote it.
And the last one is one of the committees I sit on, the organization had a cyber attack.
Oh,
And it was actually a cyber attack that asked for a ransom to get their data back.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm just inquiring on how prepared the town of Rocky Mountain is for a potential cyber attack and a potential ransom for our information. Just because it did happen and I was quite surprised at how sophisticated the information was pulled and they were looking for a ransom to get the information back.
I think
So your worship, I entrust Ms. Quinlan with our cybersecurity, so I'll have her speak on it.
Thank you, your worship and council. I can give you a brief update, and then if you want more information, I can certainly get it. I know several months ago, our micro-H, we updated our security system because this was on the radar that there's been a lot more cyber attacks. So our system has been updated probably 3 or 4 months ago. So they do monitor, and they monitor the number of hits, and it's, I would say it's very secure. That's not to say that sometimes they can't get in. I've experienced a ransomware attack. One of the easiest ways for them to get in is it was somebody on the internet innocently looking for something. So you don't even have to go to bad sites. It can just sneak through. So that's why you need to follow, our staff need to follow, our protocols. But I mean, I will follow up with micro-H and just make sure, but I know they're very diligent about it. We do back up our data every night, and it's, so if we were to suffer some kind of attack, we would have systems that we can restore. And we also have things that are up on the web where we're not actually storing the data on our own site. So I'm fairly comfortable.
With that, Betty, because we're using an outside system, do they look after, like if there was, say, a ransomware attack and they were breached, would they look after the ransom, or is that an in-house deal?
I'm not an expert on ransomware, but I would never pay a ransomware attack. It's just like the one that we experienced. What happened was the virus got into the system, and it basically starts going through your drives and locking all your files so that you can't access them. We did get it stopped in time, but we just stop it. You shut your system down, wipe your drives clean, and then restore all your backup files. Like ransomware, even if you paid it, I don't know if they'd actually give you your stuff back. So no, there would never be any intention of repaying it. It's restoring your files, but they would look after all of that for us. In the one I did experience, we were able to, I mean, the staff worked all night, but they were able to restore the files. There was a few files that were lost that were not on the main drive, that weren't being backed up because people had them in other locations. So then, yes, there was some loss, but nothing major.
Thank you. It's just I was reading that report and I thought, well, how prepared are we? And that's good to know that we are prepared. Thank you.
Counselor Phillips, you're done with your request then? So Counselor Ald had an administrative request? Is that correct?
Mr. Kraus, I know we're dealing with Rio and everything down at the Eco Center. Have we got a meeting set with them to go over their policies and procedures as far as what goes into the garbage and what they're allowing to go into garbage when it should be moved? Have we got anything kind of set up with them to have a discussion of their daily operations?
So your worship, we are going to meet with them within the next couple of weeks, and it's more to go down the lines of council's direction of an eco center versus waste. So that will be a topic of discussion. Because I think the current practice is, it's fairly loose, I guess is probably the term of what they allow in there. So, but we will be meeting with them, going through the Blue Bag program aspect of it and the future operation of the eco center, especially in waste. And we'll be bringing that back to council for establishment of the service level.
Thank you very much. Was there any more administrative inquiries? Do we have any notices of motion? Nope. So at this point, I'd like to go into closed session and Thank you I need a motion to go into closed session. Correct?
Thank you, Mayor. If you'll give me a moment to shut down the cameras and stream.
Okay. Yep, sorry, I wasn't sure if I'd take a recess or.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do like a 5-minute recess.